Given the perilous state of big budget cinema right now, where even good ones can't make money, studio executives are more adverse than ever to rolling the dice on intriguing, if risky, unique projects. But away from the world of glossy blockbusters, boundary-pushing filmmakers are still out there making their weirdo art. So with that being said, I'm Jem from WhatCulture.com, and here are 10 upcoming movies you won't believe are real. Number 10. The Substance. Every year at the Cannes Film Festival, there's at least one big shocking movie that turns everybody's heads and causes some angry walkouts. And this year, it was most certainly The Substance. The film revolves around Elizabeth, played by Demi Moore, an aging movie star who is struggling to get work and so uses a black market drug to generate a younger version of herself, so which she can temporarily inhabit. But of course, this inevitably has tricky complications. Without giving too much away, critics have lauded the film as a jaw-dropping and at times disgusting delve into body horror that offers up a career best performance for Demi Moore. To see named Hollywood actors hurling themselves into extreme body horror is one thing, but for Moore to tackle such a daring role at this stage in her career is just massively unexpected in the best way possible. Number 9. Mickey vs. Winnie. While you might be aware that the filmmakers behind the Winnie the Pooh blood and honey horror flicks are currently developing their own Pooniverse, backed with slasher-themed takes on Peter Pan, Bambi, Pinocchio and more, they're not the only folk taking advantage of the fact that many beloved childhood heroes recently entered the public domain. And so, with the original iteration of Mickey Mouse also becoming public domain earlier this year, the knowingly named production company Untouchables Entertainment is currently developing Mickey vs. Winnie. The plot reportedly involves a group of friends having their remote Airbnb raided by two cursed convicts who have been mutated to resemble Mickey Mouse and Winnie the Pooh, with the monsters apparently facing off against one another as well as the hapless vacationers. Producer Anthony Pernica has promised a unique take on Mickey Mouse like audiences have never seen before, and regardless of how the movie turns out as a whole, that's probably objectively true. Expect an absolute tidal wave of these low-effort cash-ins to flood the market over the next few years until the bubble inevitably pops, of course. Number 8. The Entertainment System is Down. The plot for The Entertainment System is Down, the new film from Triangle of Sadness director Ruben Östlund, sounds more like an SNL skit than, an actual movie. Mileage will probably vary on whether that's a good or bad thing. The film will unfold on a long-haul flight where the onboard entertainment system goes down, forcing a group of passengers to deal with the existential peril of crushing boredom for the rest of the flight. The satirical potential speaks for itself, though it's hardly much of a startling revelation that humanity has become frighteningly reliant on convenient modern tech. And so, it will be intriguing to see how the director takes a skit-worthy setup and carries it through a feature-length runtime. In the very least, he's certainly got one hell of a cast aboard already, with the brilliant likes of Kirsten Dunst, Keanu Reeves, Samantha Morton, and Nicholas Braun signed to star. Number 7. Edgar Wright's Barbarella. When rumours started doing the rounds that Edgar Wright was in talks to direct a Sydney Sweeney starring remake of Barbarella, it was tough not to laugh because it sounded totally made up. Edgar Wright is a fantastic filmmaker, but remaking such a cheeky sci-fi doesn't exactly seem like his wheelhouse, especially after Last Night in Soho's keen stabs at feminist commentary landed so clumsily. Wright has his lane, ultra stylish, witty action comedies, and so it's tough to reconcile that he's apparently going to be remaking an iconic piece of sexy cinematic camp that's so thoroughly defined by the era in which it was made. Deadline has basically confirmed that this is true, but given that Wright's movies to date are basically the exact opposite of sexy, it seems like an incredibly odd match between project and creative. It would be great to be proven wrong on this one though, and at any rate, Sydney is a great fit to take over the Jane Fonda role. Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below, and while you're there, drop us a like, share and subscribe too. Number 6. Rumours. Experimental filmmaker Guy Maddin's new film, Rumours, sees him paired up with an undeniable A-list cast for the very first time, as Cate Blanchett is among those headlining this outrageously premised dark comedy. Rumours follows the world leaders who, while meeting at the G7 to compose a statement on an unspecified global crisis, get lost in the woods. According to a Hollywood Reporter review from the film's Cannes premiere, the leaders encounter a giant brain the size of a hatchback and an AI chatbot that catfishes paedophiles. Amongst some zombies zombies doing nasty things. Right. Even for Madden, who is no stranger to pushing boundaries in his prior work, this sounds wildly out there. And the fact that he's roped in Oscar winners like Blanchett just makes it all the more perplexing. Reviews have been mostly positive so far, albeit with the sizable caveat that, as ever, Madden's work is not for everyone. Number 5. Faces of Death. If you're of a certain age, you'll surely remember the Faces of Death movies, a series of quasi-documentaries claiming to show footage of real death, though in reality, the films contain a combination of real videos of people dying, obtained from news reports and so on, mixed with fake scenes shot specifically for the film. Faces of Death was an emblem of the video nasty era of the 1980s horror, and a popular mainstay on the earlier years of the internet, though largely faded into obscurity by the early 2000s. And so, few would have expected Hollywood to jump on the reboot train for it, but indeed a modernised take on Faces of Death has already been filmed, revolving around a moderator for a YouTube-esque video platform who stumbles across a group who appear to be remaking the deaths from the original film for real. It's a loony, amusing meta premise from talented filmmaker Daniel Goldhaber, and while Faces of Death seems like basically the last horror IP anyone would ever expect to be revived, this actually has a decent amount of promise on paper. Number 4. The End. Joshua Oppenheimer directed two of the most acclaimed documentaries of the last 15 years, with The Act of Killing and The Look of Silence, and a decade later he's set to make his feature film debut with The End. Tilda Swinton and Michael Shannon star as a wealthy couple who have spent 2 decades living underground with their son, played by George McKay, following the apocalypse above ground. And here's the twist, the couple themselves had a direct hand in said apocalypse. That setup might not sound too out there, until you read on and realise that The End is actually a musical, a rarest of subgenres for a post-apocalyptic movie. That is one hell of a bold swing for someone who's never directed a narrative feature before, and yet Oppenheimer's 2 masterful documentaries nevertheless demonstrate his acute understanding of the human condition, so it's easy to be confident in him knocking this one out the park. Tilda Swinton and Michael Shannon singing their way through the end of the world. What a trip. Number 3. The Exorcism. Take one look at the poster for the new Russell Crowe starring horror film The Exorcism, and you could be forgiven for thinking it was simply a retitled version of last year's The Pope's Exorcist for international markets. But indeed, Crowe went ahead and made another exorcism flick, and while the poster makes it look like he's playing a priest once again, the premise is actually a little kookier than that. Crowe will instead be portraying an actor who begins to lose his mind while shooting a supernatural horror film, prompting his daughter to ponder whether he's relapsed into addiction or something more sinister might be at play. That's a weirder and more interesting premise than anyone would expect from the poster alone, and the trailer definitely confirms it's not going to be a garden variety exorcism movie, that's for sure. But considering it was shot way back in late 2019, it's certainly sensible to keep your expectations in check. Number 2. Nightbitch. Amy Adams is unquestionably one of the greatest actors of our generation, and generally associates herself with prestigious projects that caught serious awards consideration. But this December she'll star in this movie, an adaptation of Rachel Yoder's novel in which a woman pauses her career to be a stay-at-home mother, only to start periodically transforming into a dog. Yes indeed, a dog. It is one hell of a premise any way you slice it, and all the more so given that a performer as big as Adams is starring in it. If the logline sounds right for the exploitation B-movie treatment, Yoder's novel released to critical acclaim, and this adaptation is being helmed by the talented Marielle Heller. So it's not outside the realm of possibility that Adams actually ends up courting genuine awards buzz for the role. If nothing else, it'll simply be great to hear the word Nightbitch spoken on the Oscar podium. And number 1, Thrill Ride. The premise of the upcoming horror flick Thrill Ride is nothing if not instantly attention-grabbing. All the same, you will likely wonder how the director's gonna take what fundamentally sounds like a great hook for a short film and make it work for a feature-length joint. Thrill Ride follows a group of people who end up trapped upside down on a roller coaster, all while an unknown saboteur threatens to drop them to their deaths one by one. That's certainly a fun as hell setup, albeit one that absolutely feels best suited to either a short or, say, an episode of a horror anthology TV series like Tales from the Crypt or Creepshow. All the same, we do have hope, so long as the director can find a way to keep the limitations of the confined location interesting and exciting.